What are you trying to build? If you've already got a major brand, Shopify clean version's good to go. If you're also looking to attach a service, if you heavily rely on SEO, I would probably lean towards WooCommerce with WordPress as well. But then again, with ranked sites for Shopify as well for things for SEO. So it's a case-by-case basis, but that would be the top level. Those are the kind of decisions I would make.
Welcome to Digital Marketing Chats with Selenites. I'm your host today, Nick, and I'm sitting here with David.
Hello.
CEO, founder of Websites That Sell. So today what we're going to be talking about is site architecture for e-commerce. To get us started, I wanted to define site architecture just to kind of frame the topic. So when we say site architecture, what we're actually talking about is how your site is organized. Basically, how your pages link to each other, your URL structure, how categories and filters work. It's essentially the blueprint that determines whether your site is intuitive to navigate and easy for search engines to understand. And it can also factor into how capable your site is to scale and grow as your business changes. So with that, we'll dig into it.
Awesome. It's a pretty complex topic, but I think, the basics ring true, and I will find that as we kind of work through it, that if you stick to the basics, you'll do pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good foundation.
Yeah, I think so.
As long as the foundation is strong, everything you build on top of
That's
it
is
strong as well.
It'll hold.
So to get started, I wanted to ask, what are the foundational architecture decisions that can set you up for success or create problems down the road?
Yeah, I think the first thing you'd want to kind of work out is, where is this site going to go in the next 5 or 10 years? So I think 5 years, 3 to 5 years is a realistic way to look at any kind of business. We do planning in 3-year cycles. So I think looking at your site in a 5 to 10 year window, what does this business, what am I going to be selling? What does that look like in the next 5 to 10 years? And then from there, you can kind of work out, okay, based on that, this is the structure that I'll follow. And I said that earlier on, the basic structure for e-commerce, which e-commerce sites actually do a really good job at organizing a website, which informational sites really don't, because e-commerce is super simple. You've got your homepage, that's who your business is, and most of the time for e-commerce, that's around the brand. It's not so much around one product. It's more so, this is who we are, and this is what we offer. Then under that, you've got your categories, so your top level categories. So that could be, let's say, if you're doing clothing, that could be your t-shirts, your shorts, your jumpers, your pants, and your shoes. So that's your top level categories. And then all your products fall under those categories. And as I said, an e-commerce store usually out of the box is pretty well structured that way. So that's the architecture of the site. You got your homepage, your categories live under that, and then your products live under each one of those categories. Mm-hmm. Now, let's say you've got an informational site. The problem that we see all the time is they're not, because they don't understand and look at it as in homepage, categories, products, it's kind of all over the place. The problem is when someone that doesn't understand the basic walks in and tries to build a e-commerce site, they don't use categories. So we've seen examples of that where they don't even use categories, and then literally all the products are under the homepage or under the products, and then / whatever the product name is. So Google has no idea. They think that all these products are on the same level and belong to one big bunch. So we find that a lot with people that kind of start the wrong way. And then the other thing is that that we see a lot just straight out of the gate is that sometimes they just way overdo it, and then you've got like 5 clicks before you even get to the product. So they bury the products right down the bottom. And a good kind of user experience way is don't go any deeper than 3 clicks. It's just gonna, It's like, otherwise you're making people dig way too deep in there. That's kind of a rule of thumb that I would go with. Just kind of straight out of the gate, foundational. Those are the boundaries that I would work within.
Do you make any special considerations when it comes to URL structure when you're setting all of that up?
Yeah, great. So the ideal URL structure in a perfect SEO world would be, you've got your domain name, so domain.com.au or .com, wherever you're operating, and then / category name / product name. That's in a perfect SEO world. Now, you can bend some frameworks, so BigCommerce, Shopify, WooCommerce, you can kind of bend them to do that, but out of the box, most of them will have a shop link in there as well, and you can name that whatever you want. So yeah, for WooCommerce, you can change that, so it'll be your domain name / shop category / product. In Shopify, what's the default one there?
I know that it's collections.
Yeah, I think collections, or something like that. But usually that stays in there, and we have seen it work where you can actually remove that. But on an SEO level, I don't think that's the big problem, because it doesn't require an extra click to get there. So you've got your physical structure. That's one thing. So your physical architecture in terms of your URL structure, but then you've also got like your interlinking structure. So we'll move into breadcrumbs and things like that. So from the homepage, how many clicks, doesn't matter how the site's structured on a folder level. So that's what we just talked about, the URL structure, but how many clicks does it take from the homepage to get to the product? And that can still only be 3, no matter if there is other things within the folder structure.
So you land on the homepage, you click on a category, then maybe a subcategory, then a product, but that's pretty much the maximum.
Yeah, I wouldn't go much deeper than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there is some circumstances where that's required. It really depends how big your store is. If you've got a few hundred products, I don't think there is any need for that. When you start moving into your thousands, tens of thousands of products, there may be reason for that. But yeah, rule of thumb is keep it three clicks deep, and you'll have a pretty good user experience.
Yeah, great. In your experience, have you seen site architecture affect things that sort of people that aren't super nerdy about this stuff like us really care about? So stuff like site speed, or how findable products actually are. Like, how much does the architecture actually impact those things?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot, because if you're not properly organized, here's some of the problems that we've come across. Okay, so you've got these products that are really closely related, or you've got products that are actually identical, and the site owner starts uploading products all over the place. Then you start to try filter things down, and you've got 5 products that are exactly the same on the front end. There might be like small variances or things like that, but if you haven't organized your products into the categories, and the categories into, or subcategories like we talked about, it's really easy to miss those things, and that affects user experience, because what sometimes the actual e-commerce stores then do, they get confused about what's what, because they're too closely related. Then they pull up the same thing. Sometimes it even breaks the sites and things like that. So I think the biggest problem you'll have on your hands is that you're running an unorganized shop. And let's bring this back to the physical world. If you've got aisles in your shop and they're neatly organized, you're going to be able to help a customer way easier to find something than if you've got your products spread all over the storefront in a physical location. And that's exactly the same online. You want to adopt the same kind of thinking, that a organized store is going to be much easier for people to navigate than if you're just chucking products everywhere and you've got the same products on 5 different aisles. That's a nightmare, because is this one different from aisle 1 to aisle 5? Well, I don't know. And then you got to give a whole lot of support. People get frustrated and they'll walk out. And that's what happens online as well. They get frustrated, they'll click back, and they'll leave. They'll leave your site altogether and find your competitor.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think being organized and keeping it, how can I keep this organized like I would in a physical location? How can I do that online? That helps a lot with stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even, you use filters a lot to kind of filter products down and stuff like that. All that stuff works way better when you've got your whole shop organized.
Yeah, so having a good architecture just makes everything on top of that easier, the filtering, findability.
Yeah, and that improves site speed.
Yep.
Because if all that's organized, you don't have duplicate products, the site only needs to pull in one instead of maybe 5, 7, 10. So that really improves the user experience because things are loading much quicker. The site doesn't have to work through so much data.
Yeah. And the other week we had a different episode where we were talking about site speed and touched specifically on how e-commerce sites are extra difficult to really make fast because you can't rely on certain tricks like caching because the products are all loaded dynamically depending on what you're filtering, so you can't just save a static version of that page.
Correct.
If you set up a filter, then it's a whole different version. If you have only one version of a product that's properly organized versus 5 different versions of a product that are coming from all over the place, that's really going to change the speed of the site for sure.
Exactly, because you're pulling in too much of the same. And then if we dive into, so that's user experience, but then we've got to remember that if we're talking SEO, so now you want to drive organic traffic, Google's even more likely to not understand it because you're not dealing with humans. You're dealing with an algorithm. You're dealing with a bot, with a software that's trying to understand your site. So this is where sites, they run into trouble because Google has a hard time to understand what this site's about to start with. If you're not structuring your site properly, and in the SEO world, we call it siloing. And in e-commerce, as I said, it just lends itself so well to siloing. So you've got your homepage, your category page, and these products. Google understands, okay, this is the brand, these are the categories that this brand offers, and these are the products within each category. So you build what we call in the SEO world, you build a really strong theme relevance for that category, for that theme, for that you're trying to rank for and that you're trying to get in front of people that are wanting to buy. We talked about clothing stores, so these types of pants or these types of t-shirts. So that's the first thing. You're going to make it a lot easier for Google to understand and serve up your information. Now, the other thing that happens when we talked about earlier, where you have multiple products of the same thing, you run into what we in the SEO world call a duplicate content issue. So we've got the same product and Google's trying to decide, well, which one do you want to serve up to your users? Is it this one, or is it this one that you published 3 months later, but it's actually the same one? So there are instances where you want to do that, and there might be slight differences in each product, but that's when we get into canonicalization as well. So we're getting a little bit technical here, but basically you can have that. I would still recommend to organize your site properly so they all live in the same category, but then you just choose your flagship product, I guess you can call it that, and then all the duplicates have a tag called its canonical tag, which says this is the right one that I want you to index Google. So the flagship one becomes your core product, and then the other ones point to that and say this is the canonical.
Yeah, so when the bot lands on one of those other products, they can read that invisible tag to humans, but understand that, oh, this is actually intentional duplicate to the real version that we should care about, which is the one the canonical points to.
Correct, because in like a perfect SEO world, there are no instances outside of there. It's like we want to find the right product for this person. Now, business doesn't work that way. Businesses do promotions. Businesses have specific customer needs that they want to meet, and then you'll have new marketing managers or new people with a new vision that want, no, but we want this. So there are instances where we have to do things that go against the this is the rule of thumb, or this is the right way on an SEO level, and that's where understanding how to still make that work without disrupting or diminishing your site structure, where you have to understand how to do those technical things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because you're going to come across, and we do it all the time, where we inherit sites or a new vision comes within the company, and we've got to maintain the SEO side of things while also helping them build that functionality that still achieves the objectives that they're trying to do with that type of functionality of having different products, or being able to filter stuff this way, or having it show up here a certain way.
I'm just curious, are there any different considerations that you might take to like make a mobile experience better or different when it comes to site architecture?
Yeah, I think it's just so within. I think you would want to include when you're talking site architecture. You probably want to include navigation in that, and navigation's really important for mobile because you don't see it spread out. It's got the small button, so you want to reflect your site architecture in your navigation as well.
Okay,
so it's
like
visually.
when you open up the main menu, you can really tell at a glance how it's organized.
Yeah, exactly. On a desktop, it's really easy, but mobile usually will have a the burger button or a floating kind of thing. But so it's really important to make navigation really clear, and I love to reflect the categories in my navigation as well. So it's really easy for mobile users to do that as well. And this is probably where we come into kind of breadcrumbs and things like that as well. And we talked about kind of 3 clicks deep. The thing that I see a lot with sites is that they'll have a breadcrumb structure installed. Sometimes they don't even have that. And on e-commerce, I really recommend it because it's so easy to click back to the main category and things like that. But on mobile especially, it's easy with just one thumb. You can go up one level, or you can go back to the home page. And that's important because you don't know where people are coming from. So let's say they're coming to the category page, they want to see everything that's within that category. But if they come from a product, they search for a product, and then they see, but this site actually offers other variations of this product or related kind of products within that category, then you want an easy way to be able to click back. Having a proper breadcrumb structure that actually shows up on mobile is really important. So those kind of things sometimes get missed in mobile design, or they don't get carried over. So you need to optimize it for the mobile experience as well. Same with the menu, making sure that things aren't stripped out or that the mobile menu is different to the desktop one, making sure that it's optimized for the mobile user experience.
Yeah, definitely. And making sure that, say if you just slap like a breadcrumb plugin or something onto your site, that it is actually displaying what you want it to. Sometimes they can get a little carried away or miss things, or depending on how you're structuring things, if you've got products in multiple categories, it can also be really important to make sure that you've got the correct primary category selected.
Correct.
Typically, that's what'll show up in your breadcrumb structure. And you wouldn't want something that is like primarily, like back to the clothing example, like a shirt. When you've got the breadcrumbs, you'd want the shirt category to be in the breadcrumbs, not something like, I don't know, urban or like
correct,
less relevant. Less relevant to the primary category. So.
Correct. Because unless you want to build urban theme relevance, because that's what someone's searching for. So you could go down the track, but then it takes that's a little bit more complex, and it's not really to do with site architecture. It's more content and building that. But we've had the example as well where the client he was adamant about wanting to build a user experience where it's commercial and residential, but the products weren't commercial and residential. It was the same product for both of them. So visually, he wanted to create this structure, and we inherited the side where he put in all these different, and we talked about this earlier on, where you've got your physical structure, so your URL structure and how that's structured, but then you've got your interlinking structure, where I call that virtual interlinking, so your virtual silo and your physical silo. And I say this because the breadcrumbs were all stuffed up because we were just pulling in the breadcrumbs as they were, but all of a sudden in the URLs of the breadcrumbs, so you had home, then you had commercial, and then you had another one before the product. But a good user experience would only have home, commercial, product. So we had to write custom code for that to actually happen. So it was a 3-step process, and they could click back from here to the commercial page, which was the category, and then to the home page. So if you just kind of plug in a breadcrumb plugin or an app on Shopify or something, like you said earlier on, sometimes it'll do funky things because it follows how the site's structured. But that isn't necessarily the best user experience for your breadcrumbs. Okay, so that's probably one thing to watch out for. The other thing that I've seen a lot is that they're just done incorrect, where people put in home and then straight to the product. But there's a middle step in there. There's the category. And the category is actually important because, especially if it's in shirts and there's different kind of collections within that shirt, then you want to go back and be able to see all the different collections that are available for shirts, not just shirts and then to home, which then gives you kind of, and it's like, it's everything. They're within the shirt, so they're obviously interested in shirts. If they haven't found what they're looking for, let them go back to the other collections to see if there's something else that they could probably look at. So that's probably the two things that we've observed in the last few kind of years that create problems. It's the site owner wants to achieve something specific on a functional level, or thinks that the browsers will want to look this way, and you got to be careful that it aligns with everything else on the site, or that it's just out of the box, there aren't any kind of surprises. It's a matter of double checking, making sure it all works together.
Yeah. So you've talked about things working out of the box, and earlier you mentioned some of the different platforms like BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Shopify. What are some of the considerations that business owners should be thinking about when trying to choose a platform, or potentially deciding whether or not to switch from one platform to another? Are there some things that one platform can do that another platform might not do as well, or can't even do?
Yeah. I think the biggest consideration is how big do you want this to grow, and are you a strict e-commerce business? If you have, because we work with all different kind of clients. So we've got one client where they sell hot water systems. So that's e-commerce. You can buy them online, but then they've got the installation arm under the same business. So we need both SEO capability and also e-commerce capability, and WordPress lends itself beautiful to SEO because it's a content engine to start with. That's what it was built as. It was a blogging platform that evolved into, you can build informational sites, and then WooCommerce came along, and now, hey, this is actually a pretty legitimate e-commerce platform as well. So if that's the case, WooCommerce lends itself to that super beautiful. WordPress. Now, if you're strict e-commerce and you're always only going to sell products and ship products and there's no service or anything attached to that, then Shopify is really good for that. And if your business is geared to just ads and brand marketing and not so much SEO, so if you're a major brand and really SEO doesn't really play a part because people aren't searching for your products or your categories without knowing you, then SEO doesn't really play a role, then Shopify would be perfect for you. Because yes, they've got a blogging platform and things like that, but you can't silo the site to support the categories in the way that you could with WooCommerce and the WordPress combination. So for example, if you wanted to rank a e-commerce store, so we've got a guy, he's in the outdoor lighting space. Now, he sells a specific type of festoon light, okay? Now, people don't know his brand. He sells products. He doesn't install them or anything. But SEO plays a big role because the people search for festoon lights, or they search how to install festoon lights and things like that. So SEO is really important. Organic traffic is really important to get in front of those people and then get his brand in front of them that way. So they don't know his brand name. They don't know, he's not a major business, but he actually competes with players like Bunnings and Kmart because he's got the SEO capabilities to get in front of traffic that is unaware of his brand, but are aware of the type of product they want. So we've optimized for that category of festoon lights, and we're able to do that. That would have been a little bit harder with a Shopify store because of the limited capabilities in siloing and interacting the blog content with the e-commerce side of things. Those kind of things are really important to consider. What are you trying to build? If you've already got a major brand, Shopify clean version's good to go. If you're also looking to attach a service, I would probably lean more towards WooCommerce in that situation. If you heavily rely on SEO, I would probably lean towards WooCommerce with WordPress as well. But then again, with ranked sites for Shopify as well for things for SEO, so it's a case by case basis. But that would be the top level. Those are the kind of decisions I would make.
This may be a very short answer, but I'm just curious if there's ever a situation where you might recommend some of the other, like I think sort of the big two for us is definitely WooCommerce and Shopify. But there are others. Are there ever a situation where you might find yourself actually recommending any of the other ones? Squarespace, BigCommerce, etc. Or
we've never built them out of the box because really Shopify and WooCommerce are the leaders in the space. There's usually always these two big ones. The only times where we've dealt with other ones is where the integrations were required to do so, and they couldn't leave that platform for those reasons, or they just didn't have the finances to rebuild in another platform. That's where we've done it. But usually straight out of the box, the integrations with Shopify these days, they're just unbeatable. And the versatility of WordPress with WooCommerce is unbeatable in that space. You can't bend the other platforms the way that we can with these ones. So for those two reasons, that's really the two that we recommend. And there just isn't as much support and integration for the other platforms. So we tend to stay away. But if there are certain times, like code's code, you can work in any platform as long as it's in PHP, Java, and HTML. You can kind of make it work. But those are the two that we really kind of run with.
Sure. So if a business knows that they want to grow and they are starting from a place where maybe they're smaller or medium-sized business, but they know that the goal is to continue to grow maybe 5x, 10x from where they are now, potentially even internationally. Does that play into site architecture or platform choices as you're making those things, or?
I don't think so, unless you're expanding your categories and your products as well. But again, so we're dealing with one client at the moment, and they're a global brand. They have their warehouses are in 3 locations around the globe. So their IT team and their printing and everything happens in China. So the people in China have to be able to have proper stock control and things like that, and it's got to reflect that with the different warehouses and integrate all really well. So if you're going to that level, you need to have the infrastructure that can sustain that. So we know Shopify, again, I talked about this earlier on, they have a lot of integrations and it's built for e-commerce. Whereas sometimes WordPress is very limited because it's not built for that, or they haven't got certain things in place, where a platform that's purely built for e-commerce is going to lend itself to that much, much better. So in that regard, yes. But if you're just looking to expand with what you're already doing, so it's just a matter of more marketing and selling more of the same thing, you don't have to change platforms to do that. So it depends what scaling means. If it means more warehouses, more locations so you can do quicker shipping around the globe and things like that, you may have to change your infrastructure to do that. If it means you're going to stay in the same country, nothing really changes except that you're selling more of the same thing. The only thing that may have to change is your hosting to handle the high levels of traffic, and maybe your we've worked with companies where they do big launches and things like that, or big promotions, and where you can then change over your payment system, so your payment system doesn't get flagged or anything like that with too much going through. That's it's a nice problem to have. But again, if you're operating at that volume, it could be that you don't have problems with your processor. You can actually switch over the processes with different sales, so you're pulling it through different processes and different gateways to get people to check out. But again, that's a high level type of business. So a lot of our clients that are operating in that 1 to 10 mil kind of area, they're fine with their current infrastructure that they have. So yeah, you really want to, if you are looking to go next level, that's when you might have to think about that.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, from like a site architecture standpoint, as long as you've got the basics right, you're pretty much good to go.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's more your integrations that I talked about just then. It's again, we talked about this right in the beginning. If you get the basics right, it allows you to scale. Mm-hmm. Because if you've got your categories set up right, your products correctly under that, you can just add another category if you wanted to add new products and things like that. If you wanted to add new lines, new collections, it all scales. So getting those basics right is really key to scaling.
One last little thing, I guess, before we close. Obviously, AI is becoming a bigger and bigger thing in everyday life. Are there any places where, in your experience, you've seen AI actually do anything helpful from a e-commerce site architecture perspective? Is there anything that it's doing to help out or change the way that we do things?
Not really change anything. I think AI is really just an extension of SEO, where you're dealing with software, where you're dealing with algorithms and you're trying to get them to understand who you are and what you do, and get on their good side to have them register with you. I think it's just made user experience even more important. It's in the SEO world, we do a lot more structured data. So again, it's not really architecture. That's more on a page level. So your structured data is important there. But again, to enable the AI to understand your website really easy just means that you have a good site structure and you silo your site correctly. That's going to help a lot with that. I think, helping AI to write product descriptions and things like that all helps and everything. But in terms of site structure, there isn't really anything that I can see where AI has advanced how we do things. I think the simpler, the better. You don't need more complex structures. Mm-hmm. Simpler structures are going to be a lot easier to actually communicate with other software.
All right.
Cool.
Great. Yeah.
That's all we got. So yeah, keep it simple. Keep your structures flat where possible. With like 3 clicks is the rule of thumb. Don't make them any deeper than that. Have your silo structure where your homepage is at the top. You got your categories and then your products under there, and you're pretty much good to go. You're doing everything right when it comes to SEO structure for an architecture on e-commerce sites.
Yeah, not exactly the flashiest thing when it comes to websites, but one of those things where if you get the basics right, it really sets the foundation for success, and you can build upon it. Sky's the limit. Just keep growing.
That's it. Do the basics right and you can scale and you'll get it right.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for your time. If you're reading or watching or listening to this and you think that your site architecture might be holding you back, hopefully this has given you some good information.
Yeah.
If you still have questions, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to comment or reach out to us directly. We always love to chat.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Nick.